Shalom everybody and welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the week, Parshat Nasso, at least in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, being the longest Parsha of the Torah and also following always after Shavuot to show that now we're starting to be able to enter the world of the Torah, and it's given to us by a long Parsha. There are so many details in the Parsha. One that always sticks out, especially today, because it's a bit touching upon relevant items, is the idea of the Sotah. We've given so many insights already on the Sotah, but it's because it's so unfortunately relevant Shalom Bayit issues. So most people, when they read the Parsha, the thing that really shocks them is the idea of the Sotah, because we hear so many stories, unfortunately, of divorces, of couples cheating on each other, and families breaking up and everything. So this Parsha insight might be a bit delicate, but there's details here to help us, give us light and guidance as to what we can do, B'ezrat Hashem, to live a happy marriage and a happy life. So first, we're going to look at the end of the third Aliyah. So this is chapter 5, verse 10. This last section here, before Revi'i, talks about the gifts to, in other words, it's an indirectly, but directly involved in gifts towards the Kohanim and the Levim. The final verse reads like this: Ve'ish et kodashav, this is verse 10, Ve'ish et kodashav lo yiyu, ish asher yiten la Kohen lo yiyeh. Rashi brings a few explanations here and upcoming on the next verse, on this verse over here. Number one, it says like this. First of all, the translation: Ve'ish et kodashav lo yiyu, and each man his holy offering, the tithes, the maaser, that he gives to the Kohanim, lo yiyu, will be to him. What does that mean, will be to him? So like we said, Rashi brings down number one, that the person who's giving his gifts to the Kohanim and the Leviim, he can choose who he gives to. You can't say the Kohen says, well, it belongs to me, so I can come and take it, even like that. So the man says, no, I have the right to choose to which Kohen it goes to. So that's what the verse is teaching on one explanation. V'ishet kodashav lo yiyu, that each person, a person who gives off his tithe to Kohanim, it's up to him. To him it belongs, meaning what? He can decide who it goes to. Another explanation Rashi brings: if a person doesn't give his tithes to the truma and the maaser to the Kohanim Leviim, so ish et kodashav lo yiyu, if now the man keeps it to himself, so he's punished in that now, like what he was supposed to give to the Levim, like say for 10% or the Truma, in the end, his produce, his wealth that comes in is only 10%. Lo yiyu, because he kept it for himself, so he becomes poor. And in the end, what he was supposed to give to the Kohanim and the Levim, that in the end, it's what's left with him. So let's learn that on the words lo yiyu, okay? And the verse goes on nicely, Ish asher yiten leKohen, but a man now who gives to the Kohen, lo yeh, he will have. And Rashi says, what will he have? Quoting the Gemara in Brachot, page 63, he'll have a lot of money. By giving your tithes properly, you are blessed with bracha, okay? Right after that, Revi'i starts the whole parsha of the wayward woman, right? The Isha Sotah. Verse 11, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, Hashem speaks to Moshe saying the following: Daber b'nei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, v'amarta lehem, and you say to them the following: Ish ki tiste ishto u'ma'ala v'ma'al. Each man whose wife may have a spirit of folly take over her, and she, God forbid, does something, a transgression against, by sleeping with another man. So Rashi on the spot, Rashi says already, the first thing he says, quoting Rashi, verse 12, Ma katuv lemala min yanyan, what was written right before this parsha? And we know in the Torah nothing is by chance. The juxtaposition of parshiot, sections and ideas next to each other are done specifically. There's a specific reason for them. So the question is, you just spoke about now giving the gifts to the Kohanim and the Leviim, and you have to make sure you give them properly, and if you don't, you get punished, whatever, okay? What does that have to do with the Sotah right afterwards, the law of the wayward woman, the wife? What's written right before this parsha? Ve'ish et kodashav lo yiyu. That verse we just read. And each man, his holy offerings, which is what he gives to the Kohen, lo yiyu. Right? He can choose who he gives to, like we said. Or if he doesn't give properly, so lo yu means that he loses out, right? So now Rashi says something else, a third explanation from the Gemara Brachot, page 63. Imata me'akev matanot Kohen, another punishment. If a person doesn't give the gifts properly to the Kohen, chayecha, Hashem says, by your life, I swear to your life, shetitztarech lavo etzlo lavi lo et sotah, that if you don't come to the Kohen giving a gift, so you have to come to the Kohen in another way, to bring, God forbid, your wayward wife, chas shalom, for the Sotah whole procedure of drinking the water, the cursed water with the name of Hashem erased, and the minchat kena'od, the meal offering of the Sotah, and then God forbid if she really cheated, she dies a very disgusting, terrible death. Okay? And opposite, if she really didn't cheat on her husband, so she's blessed with children. Okay? So Rashi brings here a third explanation, that if a man is miser and cheap and whatever, he doesn't give to the Kohen, so Hashem says, chayecha, I swear by your life, that you have to come to the Kohen in a different way. You don't come giving the proper tithes, which is berachah and bounty, so then you have to come to the Kohen in a different way. So there's a few questions. And then the Sotah Parsha we know already very well, and unfortunately, all the details, that if the woman really cheated on her husband and she keeps on refusing, then she drinks this water and it bloats up her stomach and kills her. Okay, and like we said, if she didn't cheat, so then she's blessed to have children. If she couldn't have children before, then she'd have children. If she had ugly children, she has now beautiful children, etc. So there's a few questions asked by the sages of the commentaries on this Gemara, on this Parsha. The Parsha is making it sound, you the man, the mister, you do something wrong, so then your wife pays the price. More than that, she gets punished by death. So she's getting punished by death because she did something wrong. But the Parsha is saying, it's indicating who's at fault here, who started the initial problem here. It's the man. So this is a very delicate thing and concept in marriage till today. That in marriage, people a lot blame the husband. There's a place where people say, well, the husband didn't bring me simcha in my life, and that's why the woman says I cheated on my husband, chas shalom, or I did this, I did that. I remember a long time ago, a movie came out of a man who began not to love his wife, and he divorced her and got all these legal rights that she shouldn't have the kids, and he remarried and everything, and she was so broken that she came in one day, I think it's based on a true story even, and she shot her husband and the new wife. And then she, in the psycho ward of the jail, of the hospital, and the court and everything, they wanted to say that, well, he made her that way, so really he's at fault. So in a way, women, they can use this argument. They try to use this argument. Well, it's not my fault. I'm doing something wrong. It's because my husband didn't treat me right, didn't bring me simcha, so then I do what I want. Halacha is no, lady. If a woman kills somebody, she's liable. She can't say, well, my husband made me the way I am, and that's why I'm such a bad woman, and that's why I killed somebody. It's not my fault, because I'm very emotionally unstable. I'm dependent on my husband, everything. You have these type of arguments, unfortunately, even till today. The Parsha here makes it sound that there is a question mark here. Where do you draw the line? Here we see there's a big question. The Torah is saying, you the man, you didn't give your matanot to the Kohen, so then you have to bring the Sotah. So the rabbis explain, wait a second. When Rashi says, according to the Gemara, you have to bring the Sotah, bringing the Sotah isn't definite death. If now, for example, she was really innocent, just that she was so upside down because she couldn't have kids, let's say, and she did something wrong, and she really didn't cheat, so then because of all the embarrassment she had to go through, she's blessed. So bringing the Sotah just brings out the real truth now. The commentaries say that such a man who he's miser and doesn't give his gifts to the Kohanim properly, so he sent his way. If his wife is really a bad Sotah wife and she dies, she was already bad even beforehand. It wasn't him. It was really her. But because of how his conduct is towards the Kohanim, Hashem sent him a wife who was like that in the first place. And now the whole incident of him now giving the gifts to the Kohanim, in an unfortunate manner, brought it out that she dies through the Sotah. He looks like he's meant to be blamed. In a way, yes, you're blamed because you are the way you are, but she's punished with death, not you, because anyways, we sent you a woman who was not worthy and she was a bad woman, and in the end, these things happened, okay? But the opposite also, that if now she was barren, and the commentators in the Gemara say, why is a woman barren? Why does a man not have bracha to have children? Because a man doesn't give the tithes properly, he is gifted with poverty, and poverty affects one's children. Right, poverty is something that this poverty, they bring down the sages, the commentaries, that this poverty leads that a person is barren. So the barrenness is also due to his not giving. But now with all this embarrassment, she's blessed to have a child now. Okay? There's still a question. Why all this? What's going on here? So let's take a look from the perspective of Rebbe Nachman, Likutey Moharan Lesson 24, our famous Lesson 24. In Lesson 24, Rebbe Nachman talks about being besimcha, working on being besimcha, doing mitzvot besimcha, and how when a person works on simcha in life, even fake and silly simcha, to bring him to genuine simcha, this activates what's called berachah. Berachah is associated with the hands, like the Kohanim. The Kohanim are considered the seat of blessing. That's what we have in shuls. Depends on your minhag, how often in the year. But there's what's called birkat Kohanim. The Kohanim go out to do duchan. They bless Am Yisrael. In the time of the Beit HaMikdash, until today in our davening, the daily davening by the Sfardim or in Eretz Yisrael, wherever the different minhagim, but the Kohanim give bracha. Because the Kohanim's hands are channels, like funnels to receive blessing. So, going back to the Torah, when the Torah commands us to give truma and maaser to the Kohanim and Leviim, it's basically that a Jew, with what he is happy about in life, from that he gives to the Kohanim his produce. He's appreciative of Hashem for the money coming in, and he's not miser. He doesn't look, oh, why should I give to the Kohanim my hard-earned money? He sees everything as a bracha because he's a happy person, and he's willing to give off his truma and maaser. So this simcha is then given to the Kohanim who activate the bracha. Like Rebbe Nachman says in Lesson 24, that when being besimcha, when doing a mitzvah besimcha, it activates bracha, and the bracha allows a person to connect to the infinite light. Rebbe Nachman explains, truma, the reason why we call it truma, because it's an acronym for trei mimea, 2 from 100. In other words, 2% from 100, which is 1/50th. So the truma is basically, they say 2%, 1/50th, it's a truma. Okay, comes out to trei mimea. And he explains Rav Nosson, number 50 is associated with the Keter, which is the gateway to Hashem's infinite light. And we give twice, Trei Mimea, 1/50th and 1/50th to the Kohen, Truma, in order to activate through the blessing that the Kohen activates, being the Kohanim, being the concept of bracha in themselves. That's why they're the funnels, the channels for blessing in the world is the Kohanim. So when we give them our Truma and Maaser, because we're happy, we're appreciative, and we're not miser, we show that we're very open to give to the Kohanim and Leviim. This activates the bracha that leads to the 50th level, activating the 50th gate, which is hinted to in the idea of the Truma. And also Maaser, Rav Nosson goes into that also in the Likutey Moharan. You can see for yourself. But the point is that the Kohanim, giving to the Kohanim, is an act of simcha. The reward is simcha, but the prerequisite is also simcha. So somebody, a man who works on being besimcha, he is someone who will give to the Kohanim. Now, a person who's not besimcha will not give to the Kohanim. Okay, take both situations, both scenarios. The man who's besimcha, who was given chas shalom, let's say a wife who's a bad wife, and a man who's not besimcha, who's also given a bad wife. The man who's besimcha, through his simcha, he has better chances of transforming his wife to become a better person. Like someone once came to Rav Nosson complaining that he had a very, very terrible wife who caused the harm to even other people. She was so bad, and he had no idea what to do. And he thought the only decision is to divorce. Rav Nosson said, daven for her. Daven and keep on davening to change her. And the idea of davening is when a person has hope and believes his hope, he'll do that. And in the end, the tradition is that the person davened, and yes, he was able to change his wife from his prayers, okay? So going back, the Torah is showing us when it says, if you don't come to the Kohen and bring the Kodashim, your Trumot, so you have to come to the Kohen in a different way, it's the Torah showing you have two options in life how to deal with situations, especially with Shalom Bayit issues. A person has, let's say, Chas Shalom, a bad wife. He's given a bad wife. So now, if now he himself is negative, and it shows in him that he doesn't want to give to the Kohen what belongs to the Kohanim, the Truma and the Maaser, so that's short that why would he do that? Why would a person say no, he doesn't deserve? Why is a person like that? Why is a person kamtsan and holding his money to be by himself and not willing to just give it to the Kohen because as a right for it belongs? People who are like that are basically people who are not happy. You're not happy, so you feel your money is hard earned. Everything is in a dinim, judgmental attitude. Everything is in constriction and difficult and negative. Why should he get? Why should he get? Why should he get? So that attitude is emanating from a person being negative because he's lacking simcha. It's true that by giving the Kohanim, you get simcha, but also A leads to B, B leads to A. You need some initial simcha in order to give. So the Torah is showing us that when a person is not besimcha, and it's reflected in that he doesn't give to the Kohen, so then because he's taking that route of not using simcha to activate the berachah of the Kohanim, to help him in life with his marriage, let's say, okay? So he has the other alternative, that she does chas shalom, as a result, go off. If she's like a bad Sotah wife, she's an evil, and the whole process of fixing her through her death. And if it's a second case where she's really a good wife, like the Torah says, the man has a ruach of kina, a spirit of jealousy. And it says, because his wife really did a transgression, or they're coming up in like verse 13 and 14 and 15, etc. Or he had a spirit of jealousy, the husband, and she really didn't sin, right? So both cases now, they have to go through this very unfortunate situation, all because he didn't give to the Kohen, and him not giving to the Kohen is because he's not besimcha. So again, the Torah is showing that you have a choice in life how to deal with scenarios and situations. Or you can take the pathway of simcha, and then your chances of getting things moving in life are much more positive, much more better, and a pleasant way to have things happen. If a person chooses not to be happy, always feeling negative, I didn't do enough, even in spirituality, the person feels very negative about himself. I'm not getting up on time, I don't daven like I used to, I'm not guarding my eyes, I'm not watching my health, I'm not watching I'm eating, and I'm not doing things like I'm supposed to, and he just feels guilty and guilty and guilty until he feels very negative and sad about himself, and he feels that attitude is like the only way he can. There's a thing called simcha in life. Simcha is for crazy clowns and lunatics. He thinks like that, chas shalom. So such a person has the harder way of getting things fixed in life, and that's what's illustrated in the idea of the Sotah. So today we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, we don't have Kohanim. Kohanim and the Beit HaMikdash was considered the highest type of tzedakah given by Jews at the time. There was also Maaser Ani. There's all types of Maaser that were given in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. There's Pe'ah, right? There's the laws of the Pe'ah, of the field. Okay, there's all types of charities that existed back then. But the choicest one was that which was given, the Trumot and Maasot given to the Kohanim. The Kohanim servicing in the Beit HaMikdash is like the level of tzedakah to the Holy of Holies. Today, we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, but the true Torah sages, the true tzaddikim, Talmidei Chachamim, are in a sense like the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash. So it goes to say, by extension, Rebbe Nachman writes this, that when Jewish people today, Nachon, there's 5 million types of charity causes in the world, and they're all fine and dandy, and they're all beautiful, and they're all worthy and everything. But if a person really wants to get mileage, and really wants to activate bracha in the world, he should seek to give to the tzedakah, which is of the level of the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash today. What is that? That's the idea to give to the tzaddikim, whose whole life in essence is like the idea of Kohanim, to activate the bracha in the world. And this, as a repercussion of that, a person activates true bracha, which leads accessibility, like the Kohanim did, to the Trei Mimea, the 100, the 50%, 150th, which is the idea of the 50th level, the Keter. So we should be zoche, number one, to be besimcha, to take the attitude of simcha, and through that, we can, B'ezrat Hashem, deal with things much better, as opposed to an attitude of harshness. The attitude of simcha even though it may seem laid back, but your chances of getting success to where you want to get to, especially the Parsha is hinting in Shalom Bayit, because that's what it says. If now you bring your kodashim to the Kohen, so you won't have to bring your wife, the Sotah, chas shalom, to the Kohen for something bad. In other words, you have a choice how you want to deal with things. Choose the attitude of being happy, being a beneficiary, a giver, a one who wants to give and do good and be open. We should be zocher to have that attitude. Bezrat Hashem. Shabbat shalom. All the best.